Some time ago, I hear constantly some of the videos of Asmongold, and I almost I'm in accordance with almost all he said about almost everything, but there are some points in regarding the actual state of the relationships between men and women that I'm not in accord with that. I hear some things that are not well interpreted. They are really wrong. He thinks that the divorcees are telling the younger generations of men that women are awful, that they are hateful, and you should be apart from them. And maybe that's true. Maybe that is it's a truth that divorcees are poisoning the minds of the younger men. But the problem with that mindset is that it's not taking into account the current state in Western societies of the legal system. The problem in all countries is the legal system that is screwing up the relationship between men and women. That is the core problem of everything that is happening. I've heard how there's a new phenomenon over the generation C, as well as the more younger generations. The next one that succeed the centennials. The next one, Coomers, if I'm not wrong, is the right name for them. But the problem is that they are just put in their shoes, just by a minute, put in their shoes. I know, emotionally, one can get triggered by seeing that a lot of single men that hate women, the incels, a lot of old men that had a failed relationship with their ex-wives are telling the men that all women are like that, like their wife. And what Asmongold said is that arise a bell on my head, because that's a wrong interpretation. He says or something like the problem is that they are standing in a point of emotion for whatever, and a bad point of view because of whatever they happen in the divorce. But there's a problem with that. As I said before, he is no longer paying attention at the current state of the legal system, at the institutions that a very dangerous ideology has been erode those institutions across the globe. The feminist and the progressivism. Every instance of progressivism has been corrupting and destroying the institutions, especially the legal system and the communication system. I mean the media. They tried, as well as the education system, they tried to rout the mind of the people and subvert and put men against women and women against men. That's the problem. That's the core problem. But the men are not living, are not being apart from the woman. just because a bunch of old farts are telling them that the women are awful. That's not the case. There is always has been a bunch of men that hate women. There is always has been every instance of the history of the human. There are men that are losers, as Asmongold says. They call them losers that cannot get into a relationship with a woman and are not willing to do to require sacrifice that the effort that entails to do that, and that's a problem. That's a problem. Yes, that always has been happening across the history. There is not something new in that regard, but the younger generations never has listened to those old farts. Like me, for example, why they don't hear us in the past? Because the reality that they know, the woman that they meet, really are way more different than what the people that are telling them that women are awful. It's pretty different. The woman that they know in the past are not like the divorcee man was saying, or the resentful man was saying. The problem is that our cultures across the globe, the Occidental cultures, are creating a situation in which the man is hated and punished by the system. Ironically, the feminists always say that they are the woman across the globe has been oppressed by the man. They create an ideology in which they only because they naturally depend on the man. They create a fantasy in while that dependency that is natural, because a woman alone, the woman can't survive without the man providing and protecting them. They need the structures of the buildings, of the streets, of the country that we may create. They need that we operate those infrastructure that we create. They are not willing to do that hard work. They are not most of the time not have the strength or the driving force, instinct drive force to exercise themselves very at those things, at those lengths that is required in order to maintain the infrastructure of the society. For example, they are not willing, and they should not have to clean the sewer system. But the men are willing to do that in order to get some money, in order to provide to their families. That is normal. The women are not prepared and willing to do that, and that is fine. That is the rightful state of things. That is how the human is, and it's okay. It's natural. It's something. If you are religious, that is something that how is supposed to be the human being. That is how God created the human being, and it's okay. It's fine. But the feminists tell us that the woman has been oppressed just by the natural dependency that they have by the man, with the man, sorry. As you should know right now, for the mistake that I made while talking, this is not my native language. I'm a Spanish speaker. I'm from Latin America, but anyway, I'm watching the law system, the legal system being corrupted in real time by feminists in our country. That culture by the mass media is also in real time telling men and women that the women are not protected, even if you're and they are creating a legal system that is against men. Maybe not at the same degree as is occurring in the first world, in Canada, in United States, in United Kingdom. It's not in all Europe. It's not like that at that extent. But the seed has been planted in all Latin American countries. And it's very sad to see that in this place, the people is not paying attention to every single law that is against the right of freedom in our countries, that is against the men that blame men for everything and are trying to subvert and erase the innocence. I'm not know the word, but sorry, it doesn't come to my mind. But you are not guilty until proven the contrary. That is trying to be erased in our countries right now, and the law has been passed without anyone telling the world, anyone telling the other people in our countries, and nobody knows. There has been some cases in while a person was trying to be arrested by something that it said in his podcast in Mexico. A very well-known person, a very well-known political analyst that was almost arrested, was trying to be arrested for something that he said in one of his podcasts that never has happened before in Mexico. But when the people found that, they started to protest. Hey, why you are arresting someone for one concept that is extremely dumb? It was created in Mexico. It's the political gender violence. What that thing means? Supposedly, it was supposedly that fears that institutionally the women are not allowed to get into power positions in government, and that is some kind of sexist discrimination. And thus, for that, it should be illegal to do that. That doesn't have any sense. But the problem is that in Mexico, that thing has been converted in something like every single thing that you say, no matter who you are, every single thing that you say to a woman that are in politics that she doesn't like, then you are committing that crime and you should be arrested for that. Nobody knows that thing. Nobody has been paying attention to that law, to that regulation, until it was exercised by an institution that is in charge of the elections, of the political elections. It also don't the level of clownery that this has been happening behind the scenes and nobody has saw is extremely depressing. And that is the problem. That's why I'm daring to talk about a YouTuber that only talk on English for first world audiences that are in the United States and Europe. But the problem is that we have the same problem now. Is the tickle bomb is not has not exploded, but is the time is tickling. The basis for in order to we become the same as the current state that you are across the first world has been planted. The basis has been planted. The system has been corrupted. The wrongful laws has been placed. That's the problem. That's the big problem that we have. So I will correct Asmongold as I'm saying. Sorry, I'm watching that some part of the population on USA, some YouTubers that are in the middle ground, that are not anti-woke and that are not woke, trying to interpret the situation and explain why the younger generation of men are not committing in relationships. And Asmongold is wrong. He's totally wrong. He's not saying the current system. That is the problem. And the other thing that he doesn't recognize, but in some other videos he has talked about, and even in the same video that I watched the other day, he talked about this, but he I don't know why. Maybe because he's based, no, not based, biases. I don't know how to pronounce the word, but he has some. He thinks in the way and interpret the things in the way his current life suggests him. He said that the old people, divorcees, are positioning the mind of the younger generations because they interpret in a biased. I'm sorry for I'm not know how to pronounce the word, but in that not what is the word? Sorry, it is in a wrongful way, in a mistakenly way that only occurs because their perspective is personal. Only for that, but the problem is that Asmongold, he has a good relationship and a good wife. He is the 1 in 10. He found the Nabuald. Those men are telling the rest of the people that, oh, if you put the force in yourself, you improve yourself, and go to find a good woman, that there are good women in the world. There really are. I'm not denying that there are a lot of good women out here. But the problem is that it's not even close to satisfy the need of a relationship to the most of men. It's a very small percentage of women, and that very small percentage of women has all the right to select the best man that are out here, and that leads to the same problem. Then The problem that I'm going about to talk about, the women are selecting the best of the best of the men. They don't see themselves in a mirror. They don't see themselves as a person. They don't evaluate their position and their worth in a relationship, what they can bring into the table. They are not saying that. And at the time they are not saying that, they are asking for the best of the best of the men. They could have a body like an elephant and orangutan and gorilla. They can look like a gorilla and asking for the best of the men anyway. They could have, even if that's their physique. Okay, some men are willing to not pay attention to that if she is a very good person that is willing to be feminine, willing to treat him well, to not cheat at them, to be always for them. Some, very few men, but are willing to do that, even if she is really extremely ugly. Some men. But anyway, the problem is that feminists are telling them to be a bad woman, to treat men like trash, and they are treating men like trash. And let's suppose that most of the women don't do what the society is pressing in them, are educating them to treat bad the men. Let's say that is not happening that. Okay. Anyway, they are not saying the 80% of men. They are only searching for the upper echelon, the 20%, and that it's only to recognize the existence of those men. If you are under the upper 20%, you don't exist for them. You are not going to be given a chance. And why? Asmongold thinks that the average dude has the capacity to improve themselves and then attract a woman. If you talk nicely with a woman, if you treat them well, okay, they could give you a chance. But what he's not considering, because he found that he has a good relationship with his woman, is that, okay, you are competing with the top 20% of men, and there are several women that have sexual experience with those top 20%. They think only because they have sexual experience with them, they can marry one, and instinctively they will think that they are losing something if they settle with you that not are those 20%. As I said before, they don't see their own value. If you tell them to see their value, they will get triggered and offended, because they are trained by feminists to not watch themselves, to not be responsible for anything. And that is the very core problem of why their behavior is really wrong. It's not like as he's supposing that naturally the women are angels, because that's the way they are interpreting the things, that they only by existing are angels. Let me tell you something that is very important. if a person you take out all the responsibility of his life, of her life, that person doesn't matter who she or who he is, doesn't matter their gender. If you take out the responsibility of their lives, they will become a piece of shit, because they will never learn how to be responsible for their actions. They will never learn how to control their emotions. And guess what? In the commerce, in the younger generation and the generation C, you can see that there are people, men including men, you can see in the younger men that never had any responsibility on their lives, and they are acting like a piece of shit. Pieces of shit. Why is that? Because the responsibility has been subtracted. Never they were punished by acting wrong. Their parents, even if they said that it's because I don't want to make my child feel wrong. I don't want to take full anything, so I will not punish them for their actions. Doing that, you are neglecting one part of a human being's need to be happy in their life, in his or her life. A human being needs to be corrected, to be educated, in order to act in a constructive way in the society and in its own life. You don't teach that to a children. It doesn't matter if he's a man or a woman. It will going to auto-destruct herself. He's going to destroy its life. Why? Because it will never put a stop to their instinct, to their action that is driven by instincts. And if you don't stop that, and you never develop an inner self-regulation of your behavior, you will destroy your life. You will fuck everything around you, the people around you. And that is, even if you are not going to develop a sane regulatory system, you will not develop that. And that is what we are saying in the commerce, especially the progressive the commerce that come from progressive parents. They can't control their emotions. They depend on chemicals, on psychiatric chemicals. And that is insane. What is the core problem? They are not being educated in order to be responsible from their lives for everything that they do. They are not teaching them, the parents are not teaching them the relationship between action and consequence. And that is the big fucking problem that all the Western societies have. That is the very core of the problem. And guess what? Feminists are telling the women that under any circumstances they are not responsible for anything, for anything, even what they carry on their womb. They can kill that if they wish to, and they are compelled to do that. They are rewarded by the system to do that, thanks to the feminists. They are telling them, act as an animal. let that the instinct driving your life. Because if you do that, you will be liberated. And that is not true. You will become a slave of your own instinct if you do that. The thing that we are saying in society that the women go for the top 20% of men, and in only to recognize that they are men, they really go for the top 1% of men, and they sleep with them, unknowingly that they will not marry them, that will not be being charged of the child. Why that is happening? Because those women know those women are not responsible for their own lives. They think that they going to be selected by the top 1% of men, and they will marry them, and they will be chosen by that elite men. That they will become in some way a simp, and will provide for them. Guess what? Those men have a lot of choices. A lot of choices. The women throw themselves to them every single day. They just need to open Tinder or any other application, and there is 100 of women willing to sleep with them that very same day. Women that are not the worth of that has not reached the worth of that man. In a relationship, they are more desirable by a lot than those women. But they don't want to be responsible. The feminist has sold them a lie in where they are top 10. Always. Why? Because you can't have a top 10 men, and for that reason you are a top 10 woman. And that's not the case. The men, those top 1% of men, those top 20% of men will satisfy their needs and dump you. They pump and dump. You only are a piece of meat for them. But what happening after those women come into contact with those men? They blame every man. The beta men. The men that they don't consider as a man. And that is loony. That is crazy. Because they blame all men. But what they are really referring is that all the men that they has sleep with or they like. Only those men are men. The others are nothing. Doesn't exist. And that's the problem. That way of thinking only can exist in a society where you by your gender has been told every single time that you are not responsible for your life or for your actions, for your decisions. And those women are scrubbing off their lives and their lives of their children. Just think a minute. Put the behavior that the average woman have in our Western societies, and put that behavior in a man. You will be freaked out for that man. You will be say that person is a piece of shit. That it's an scumbag. Why? Because you will not tolerate that behavior in a man, because that behavior is wrong. It's totally wrong. It's destructive for themselves and for everyone else. So, why you tolerate that in a woman? Why you have to not see the wrongful of that behavior irresponsible behavior. That is the code word, irresponsible behavior. Irresponsible in men. Why you are not saying that? Because you have needs. You as a man have needs, have instincts to protect and provide for women. So for that reason, the protect part are clothing your understanding of the women's. And guess what? It was your responsibility to teach them, to tell them, to say them no, to educate them as a father. Don't destroy your life chasing that irresponsible man, because he had a lot of choices and he will not marry with you if he will not sustain you or your child. Do not marry with him. Marry with another good that looks like you, exactly at your level. Marry that man that is willing to sacrifice his life for you. He's willing to sacrifice everything to have a family, a happy family with you. The man that you can't see, the man that you think doesn't exist. You are selecting. Okay, let's come on. Let's left apart the example of the father teaching his daughter, and let's talk not in that example, but as normal. A woman really need the feedback of the men. Really need to be teach that. Okay, by the fathers, but if there are no fathers to do that, by the men. But what is happening? What is the feminists are doing in our societies? If you dare to tell any criticism of a woman, you should be punished. Then, if you can't criticize, if you can't punish the bad behavior in order to make responsible the woman for their actions, then we will have no way to develop and handbrake to their driven behavior by instincts, to their instincts, to their behavior driven by instincts, and they will destroy their lives. And that is what we are saying with the lonely woman at 40 years old plus, that or had children with a Chad men, Tyrone men, that never becomes responsible for those children, or they never had children because when they get pregnant in their younger 20 years, in their 20s, they abort the child. And that is why they get to become alone at the point where it's pretty difficult. It's a geriatric pregnancy if they get pregnant at that age, with a very high risk that their child become with a lot of problems. It's a very high risk pregnancy. At that age, they should not be having their first child. It's a very high risky pregnancy. So, what is the problem? The responsibility. I know, if you have an award, if you have a good woman, if you are happy married with a girl that will stay with you for the rest of her life, you are a very fortunate man. But statistically, that is not what is happening with the rest of the men. The rest of the men, probably half will get divorced. Half. And 75% of that divorce will be initiated by the women. Maybe my statistics data is wrong. I'm just recalling it for what I had read. But it's pretty bad. Because the risk, that is the other problem. The risk to have to pay alimony and child support is very high. The woman, by default, always had the custody of the child. The woman always, almost always, is the one that get rewarded for divorcing you, by forcing you to pay alimony to her. The woman is the one that will get 50% of your things just by marrying you and divorcing you. They can get half of your stuff, of your hard work, all your efforts that you can make for over years. And I'm not going to talk about how, for example, in the United States, you can you have to pay whatever you are gaining at some point in your life, at the highest point in your life, and you should have to gain that something. If not, you are going to be arrested for not paying the alimony, supposing that you have to gain that even if you has been fired. And if you don't pay that amount of money, that you don't have a way to gain that because you are being fired, then the alimony and the child support is accumulated, and if you don't pay that, you get arrested. But if you get arrested, that alimony and that child support just accumulate, and the time that you has been released from the jail, you will have to pay everything. If you do that, if you don't have the money, that was the reason that at first that you was arrested, because you can't pay that, then you go back to the prison, and that is a nightmarish problem. I'm not going to go deep into that, but that is a very fucking problem that the Western societies are pushing to. It started in the United States, but it has been trying to be repeated across the globe, including Latin America. So that's why I have to talk about this. But I'm gonna concede in something. All of this is happening not because women, they are not the problem. All of this is happening because weak men, because the weak men are the ones that are creating this legal system and this society that are letting the institutions to be corrupted by feminists. by feminism, by progressivism. They are the ones that are willing to destroy, that punish, that fight, that smack you in the head with a hammer. If you dare, dare to complain, if you dare to go against those regulations, if you try to overthrow those regulations, they will scream, they will yell at your face, telling you that you are sexist, that you are east of everything, and they will try to fight you. Those weak men that are driven with their sexual urge, their sexual needs, and think that is a good strategy to get the approval of the women, being a white knight. Those men are the problem. Those very one. They don't think in the well-being of the woman. They don't think on the well-being of the society. They don't think in the future and the consequences of their own actions. They don't think in that. They only think, how can in the moment I get the approval from women, and that will lead me in the future to get a woman. That's the only thing that they have in their minds. They are thinking with their dicks, and that's all. Those men are the responsible ones. Those that doesn't teach their daughters, also those two, their daughters, to do not destroy their lives. Those that doesn't teach them responsibility in their lives, to be responsible on their lives. Those are the very core problem. Those men, those weak men. Asmongold is right in that regard. It's the mental problem. But the thing is that he said several times and constantly is saying that the women are being mistreated by men a lot. That they has been treated like a piece of meat, and the men are behaving like a piece of shit. And that's right. I'm not denying that. The problem, the misunderstanding that Asmongold has is that he's not paying attention who those men are. Who those men are. Those men are the top 20%. The ones that have options. The ones that every single woman are chasing off. Those that only taking their phones and browsing Tinder can hook up with almost hundreds of women. Those men that the women are fighting for. Those that has some kind of harem at their disposition. Those men, because they have a lot of options, because the woman fight for them, because they are told that they are the best in the world, that the woman always loved them, that even are harassed by women. Those men obviously can treat them like a piece of garbage because they have a lot of options. Because the women by themselves treat them like a dildo. Treat them like a dildo. how they are going to treat the woman if constantly they are bombarded by everything, the good and the wrong of the woman that are chasing after them. The same thing the woman experience with the men. The same thing. A woman is being chased a lot by a man with the wrong and with the bad that comes with. Some people that they reject, some men that they reject would get mad with attack them for rejecting those men. And the same thing happened with the top 20% of men. Some women will get mad, will get nuts for being rejected by a good-looking man, 20%, and will lash out at them. The same amount of pain that the average woman gets with with the men that are trying to date them. I'm sorry, I lost the word, the correct word, but you know what I mean. Those men that are molesting the woman, annoying, sorry, that was the correct word, but molesting also is correct. Molesting and annoying the woman in the same way the top 20% of men has been annoyed and molested by women. How they will not treat the woman as a piece of shit. And in the same way, how the women are not going to treat as a piece of shit those men that are insisting to be with them, that get angry if they get rejected by a woman and lash out at them. It's the same. So, the problem and the confusion that Asmongold has is that he's not saying who those men are. They treat the woman like a piece of shit because they are the top 20. They talk about the relationships and talk about nightmarish situations by those men and by the resentful ones. But only those exist. The good average, good willing men that is willing to give their life for the woman and their child, that are willing to commit with a woman, those doesn't exist in their mind. So it's not all the men. It's the situation that those weak men has been created that is making the woman select the top 20% of men that treat them like a shit. That's the problem. He's not saying that. And he's using that as excuse to say all the men are piece of garbage to treat bad the woman, or at least most of the men in all the population, not most, some of the men in all the population, as if it were something that happens constantly, but not. It doesn't happen constantly. It only happens in the top 20% for that situation in where they have options, and in the resentful men that doesn't get any woman, that doesn't get laid, that doesn't get a relationship. that always been rejected by women. The incels one. Only those are the ones that really treat bad the women. The losers, as he said about the incels. That's the problem. The women are self-destructing, are choosing wrong because they has no limits. They has no self-control. They doesn't know how to put a stop to their emotion and instincts because the system has been corrupted by feminists that lie, progressivism that lie, that tell you that the liberation is being driven by your own emotion and instincts, and that is madness. That's why the progressive people, normally you can see them that they can regulate their emotions, that they can control themselves, that they are at the very edge of the craziness. If not, they are crazy already. That is the very problem, the very core of the problem. We are not teaching the people, not only now women, but also men, the responsibility in their lives, the relationship between action and consequence, and we need to do that. I know we cannot revert the situation of how it was before giving the woman rights. We can do that, especially because we're going into a new revolution of the industry with the automatization of everything, with the IA and robots that is coming. So what we have to do, we have to find a way to make everyone responsible for their own actions, for themselves and their own actions. The system is fucked up. The Western society's legal system are fucked up and will screw the men. We have to change that in order to make as equal responsible at the women as the men. Everyone should be responsible for their own actions. Nobody has to should pay alimony or should pay for the child of other people. The men that impregnate women, those men should be the ones buying for life for their child. Those men and only those. It should not be allowed that a very bad person, very bad woman, just marry a guy only to get a source of income, and when she feels safe, then divorce that dumb weak man and get half of his assets. She should not be able. They should not be able to force a man, a dumb weak man, to buy for the child of another man. The very men that impregnate them should be responsible for their own seed. Should be forced. That guy and that guy alone should be forced to pay for their own child. If we do that, ironically, if we make responsible the men for their own seed, the top 20% will not fuck around, will not sleep with every single willingly women that throw themselves at their bed. They will select the top 20% of women. If they do that, ironically, the problem is solved. And the men will stop rejecting to be, the younger men will stop rejecting to be with the woman. The younger woman will stop to choose the EA. That is awesome. I really don't know how that is happening that soon. The woman is being beaten by a chatbot. The younger men are choosing the chatbot, not even a robot, not a robot waifu, a sexual bot, robot, physically present. Just an EA that treats them with dignity and respect. Only for that, they are choosing the EA. Okay, it's understandable if they doesn't have any chance to get a woman, no matter how much they improve themselves. If they see that only by being with a woman, all of their well-earned assets will be steal by that woman, they will have to, of course, they will not. The juice doesn't worth the squeeze. They will not be willing to risk their life to be destroyed by a random woman, just because they know that those women are not willing to stay with them, that they doesn't love them, that they are just chasing Tyrone, that they are chasing Chad, the top 20% of men. They love those top 20% of men. Ironically, those top 20% of men doesn't love them. They are the ones that treat them like shit and see them as a shit, as a piece of meat. But instinctively, by instinct, the woman want to be treated like that. Why? Because that tickles their need of find a man of worth, the hypergamy. That's the problem, the core problem, the hypergamy in them. If you treat them bad, that tickles that need, and they will think that you are above them. And then, for that reason, this is the best that I can find, so I will have to protect him, to not be stealed from me by any other woman. And that is the problem. They go into the mode, I have to protect Tyrone, I have to protect Chad mode, and start fighting against the other woman, or complying, and left them to sleep with every other woman and form part of an harem. And that is what the instincts do. Destroy their lives, the life of their child, because those childs will not be raised by a loving man, by a loving family, by a woman that will be feel complete, protected, cherished by a good man. That's the problem. You know? That's the problem. And as I was saying, the next revolution, the industrial revolution that the EA and the robots are coming, with that we are going to face. It's extremely game changing. Everyone should be responsible for their actions, because it will be free us at some degree of the labor, of the work. And at that point, with free time, with a lot of free time, we should become pretty responsible for our own actions, including the women. Why the women? Because there is will be an option for the below 80% of men. The option of the EA and the robot waifus. They will have the option to satisfy their needs with a robot, and their feeling needs with a chatbot, with an EA. And that is what is happening right now. The EA are gaining against women, because women treat the average man like a piece of shit. They doesn't exist. They are only tools to get money. The one that they love, they are willing to sacrifice themselves for the one that they love, that are the top 20% of men, and the others are only tools. That's what their instinct tells them to do. And the feminist and progressivism has told them in order to be liberated, they had to be driven by their instincts, as if they were animals with no intellect or moral or education or basic education. That's the problem. We need to be responsible. Maybe the woman, until the competency is here, until that competency, that robo-waifus comes to be a reality that can be affordable for the average man, only at that point they can start to change and become more responsible with their decisions. But we men should start to be more responsible for our own actions. Make responsible at Tyron. Make responsible for their offspring at Chad and Tyron. We should not be saying that the men that are describing the situation to the younger generation are crusty old men that are positioning the mind of the younger generations. That is not the case. They will not believe those crusty old men. They not believe us. I'm not crusty old man. They will not believe us if the reality is not confirming what we are saying, what those divorcee men are saying, or those lonely men as I are saying, telling them. They will not believe us because the reality is not confirming what we are telling them. That's the problem. And I swear, it's not the problem that the women are bringing us. It's a problem that the weak men are creating, that the white knights are creating. But anyway, the society is in the brink of a change by the technology. So we need to find a better way to behave, to be more responsible. And maybe when there is no other choice, when the woman is never selected, not only by the 80% of men, but also the top 20% of men. Why? Because the top 20% of men has to come into contact with a lot of shit that the women do, because they feel attracted by them, as well as the woman has to deal with a lot of shit that the men do, a lot of shit that the men do that are interested in them. The same, the top 20% of men have to deal with a lot of shit that the women do. So probably some of them, most of them at some point, will prefer the idealistic robo waifu that is beautiful with unrealistic standards, extremely beautiful, extremely willing to be for 10, with a cherishful personality, because it was programmed for that. When that unrealistic thing, competency comes, the woman probably will not have a change. The society has to change, and the way that we form families has totally to change. The feminists and the progressivism just accelerated that process by a lot, creating an enmity between men and women. And that's all that I have to say. Thank you for watching this video. I know that I'm not very well at speaking English, I know that, but at least if you had heard this until this point, thank you very much. I ask you to subscribe and to do a like to this video. So thank you very much. Have a nice day. If you don't like the way I how talk, okay, I'm sure that over time I will become more fluently on the English on the English language, and at some point I will be able to talk a lot on English, way better than I'm doing right now. Okay, thank you very much. And if you want to ask me any question, feel the freedom to do it in the comment section, and if I saw that comment, I will be willing to reply you as soon as I can. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Thank you. Has been spoken Zero from Neurotrollium. See ya.